Throughout his entire life, St. John Bosco was blessed with a photographic memory. In fact, when he was a young man in high school, he could finish his studies with astonishing speed, so he had much free time left over to devote to saving souls. He met a young Jew named Jonah in a bookstore, and they became fast friends. In this episode, we'll discuss the young saint's efforts to convert the Jewish boy despite getting violently chewed out by his mother. The Miracles and Prophecies of St. John Bosco, a project of America Needs Fatima. I'm your host, Matthew Miller. Subscribe for new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. About this period in his life, Don Bosco writes, "Anyone who saw me spend my time so frivolously might imagine that I neglected my studies. I don't deny that I could have studied more, but I can honestly say that all I had to do to learn was to pay attention in the classroom. Furthermore, I made no distinction then between reading and studying, because I was able to recite with ease anything that I had read or had heard read. Since my mother had trained me to sleep only a few hours, I was able to spend 2/3 of my nights reading by the light of my little oil lamp. Thus, I was free to give almost the entire day to doing what I wanted, such as tutoring, often out of charity or friendship, although several students did pay me. At that time, there was a Jewish bookseller in Chieti called Elias, whom I met when I subscribed to the loan of a series of Italian classics. I paid him a soldo for every book that I borrowed. I read the whole series at the rate of one a day. I spent my whole 4th year of high school reading Italian authors and my year of rhetoric studying Latin classics, from Cornelius Nepos to Cicero, Horace, and others. I read them for pleasure, and I enjoyed them as if I really understood them. I discovered only later that I had not thoroughly enjoyed them. For when I became a priest and began to explain those famous classics to others, I realized that it was possible to grasp their true meaning and beauty only after much study and preparation. All in all, my studies, the private lessons I gave, and my reading filled the greater part of my days and my nights. It often happened that when it was time to get up, I was still holding a volume of Livy's History of Rome, which I had begun to read the evening before. This so undermined my health that for years I felt I was close to death. Thereafter, I always advised young people to do only what they could and no more. Night is meant for rest. Except in cases of necessity, no one should do serious study after supper. A strong man may keep it up for a while, but it will always have some ill effect on his health." John's amazing memory was undoubtedly a special gift of God. He didn't let it wilt, but improved it further by constant practice. He committed the books he read to memory from the first to the last line instead of studying only the main points. He concentrated particularly upon books presenting difficulties either because of the language, such as Latin and Greek, or because of their complicated sentence structure and obscure meanings. His memory didn't deteriorate with age either. 2 months before his death, Don Bosco was riding in a carriage with Father Rua and his secretary. The discussion turned to certain passages of Bible history which Metastasio had taken as the basis for one of his plays. Don Bosco immediately began to repeat whole scenes from this writer's work with great feeling. He didn't make a single slip. He hadn't read Metastasio since his school days. During his 3rd year of high school, while at Pianta's Cafe, John had become friends with a young Jew named Jonah, a very handsome lad about 18 years old. He had a remarkably fine singing voice and was a skilled billiard player. He had first met John in Elias's bookstore. Whenever Jonah went there, the first thing he did was to ask for John, who was very fond of him and to whom Jonah was deeply attached. He spent every spare moment with his friend, either singing, playing the piano in the billiard room, or reading. He liked to listen to the many tales and stories John told. One day, the young Jew got involved in an argument and a fight which threatened to have serious consequences. As soon as he could, he rushed to John for advice. John told him, "Well, if you were a Christian, Jonah, my friend, I would take you to confession at once, but you can't do that." He got offended at that and said, "But we too can go to confession if we want to." Well, you may go to confession, but your confessor isn't bound to secrecy. Neither can he absolve you of your sins or administer any sacrament to you. Well, said Jonah after some thought, if you'll take me to a priest, I'll make my confession to him. Well, I could do that, but only after much preparation. What kind of preparation? Well, confession remits sins that are committed after baptism. So to receive any sacrament, you must first be baptized. Okay, what should I do to be baptized? You have to take instruction in the Christian religion and believe in Jesus Christ, true God and true man. After that, you can be baptized. What would I gain by being baptized? Asked Jonah. Baptism removes original sin and also your own sins. It enables you to receive all the other sacraments and makes you a child of God and heir to the kingdom of heaven, replied John. Well, can't we Jews be saved? Asked Jonah. No, my dear Jonah. Since the coming of Jesus Christ, Jews can't be saved unless they believe in him. Well, if my mother should ever learn that I want to become a Christian, God help me, said Jonah. Don't be afraid, replied John. God is master of all hearts. If he wants you to become a Christian, he'll see to it that your mother will agree to it, or in some way or other will help you save your soul. Jonah thought for a moment. What would you do if you were I, John? I would begin by taking instruction in the Christian religion, said John. Meanwhile, God will smooth the way for what you must do later. Take the catechism and start learning it. Pray God to help you find the truth. From that day on, Jonah was drawn to the Christian faith. He would go to the cafe, and after a game of billiards, he would look for John to talk about religion and all the things he was learning in the catechism. He was very happy, and his behavior improved every day. Now, Jonah's father had died when he was a child. His mother, Rachel, had heard some vague rumors to the effect that her son might want to change his religion. She had nothing definite to go on until one day, while making his bed, she found the catechism that the boy had forgotten under the mattress. She screamed in horror and indignation and took the catechism to the rabbi. Immediately, she suspected John Bosco because her son had mentioned him quite often, and she hurriedly went to look for him. But before we hear about Don Bosco's encounter with her, I'd like to invite you to enroll in our Saturday Mass intentions for the promoters of St. John Bosco. It's a beautiful Mass set in the traditional Byzantine rite, and you can enroll by clicking on the link in the description below, or you can wait till the end of the video and click on the logo that appears on the screen. Jonah's mother was a frightening person. In fact, her own people called her the witch because of her looks. So you can understand how startled John must have been at her sudden appearance. Before he could recover, the woman spoke up angrily. I know it's all your fault. You've ruined my son Jonah. Yes, you. You've ruined his reputation. God knows what will become of him. I'm so afraid he'll end up as a Christian, and all because of you. John, who had never met his friend's mother, guessed who she was and what she was talking about. He replied quietly that she ought to be glad and grateful for the good he had done for her son. What good are you talking about? What's so good about making one give up his own religion? Calm down, my good lady, John said, and listen to me. I didn't go looking for your son, Jonah. We met by accident in Elias's bookstore. We became friends for no particular reason at all. He's very fond of me, and I'm very, very fond of him. As a true friend, I want his soul to be saved, and I want him to come to know the only faith in which he can be saved. Yes, it's true that I gave him a book to read, but I told him only to study our religion. I also told him that if he became a Christian, he wouldn't abandon his Jewish faith, but perfect it. If by misfortune he were to become a Christian, he would have to forsake our prophets, because Christians don't believe in Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, or Moses, and all the prophets. On the contrary, replied John, we believe in all the holy patriarchs and all the prophets of the Bible. Their writings, their words, and their prophecies are the very foundation of the Christian faith. If our rabbi were here, he'd know how to answer you. I don't know either the Mishnah or the Gemara. Oh, what will happen to my poor Jonah? With this, she left. It would take too long to describe the aggravation John had to endure, or the way poor Jonah was repeatedly attacked by his fierce mother, but the courageous boy accepted it and continued to study the faith. Since he was no longer safe in his own home, he had to move and live almost like a beggar. Many people came to his aid, however. To be sure that everything was done properly, John asked a learned priest to look after his friend. As soon as he was properly instructed, Jonah was baptized with great solemnity, thus setting a fine example for the whole of Chieti, as well as for many other Jews who later embraced Christianity. A kind couple were his godparents and gave all possible assistance to the convert, who soon after was able to earn an honest living. He led a truly Christian life under the name of Louis, and always remained grateful and devoted to John Bosco, whom he visited frequently at the oratory all the way up to the year 1880. Such were the first fruits of John's apostolate, the first of innumerable heavenly graces. As the apostle St. James says, "My brethren, if any one of you strays from the truth and someone brings him back, he ought to know that he who causes a sinner to be brought back from his misguided way will save his soul from death and will cover a multitude of sins." Thank you all so much for watching, and if you'd like to enroll in our Saturday Mass intentions for the promoters of St. John Bosco, just click on the link I've put on the screen. God bless you, and Our Lady keep you.